When you think about different groups of the Republican Party, you've probably heard of the college Republicans, young Republicans, and I would be kicked off my own YouTube channel if I didn't mention the Republican women, the lifeblood of the party. But you are probably not aware that there's a whole nother subgroup in the GOP, and it's the Federation of Republican Men. And if you've been in a church lately and this sounds familiar, you're not alone. When you go to a church, what they have the kids groups that go from infant to senior in high school, and then some of them, if you're lucky, will have a college or young adult group, and of course they'll have all their women's groups, but men's groups seem to be few and far between. But fortunately, here in North Carolina, just a couple years ago, if that, maybe even just a year ago, the North Carolina Federation of Republican Men's Group was reestablished, and the gentleman who reestablished the group is a man by the name of Bob Pruitt. He's been extremely active in Eastern North Carolina politics for a long time. He's 83 years old, but he looks like he could pass for about 60. I definitely had good command of the meeting yesterday. I have some criticism, just a few little criticism, but I'll do that at the end of the vlog. But he definitely seems like he had that good leadership, that strong voice, and good command of the group, though. So this meeting started with a presentation on messaging by Miles Jones, who has experience working in advertising. He's worked with Johnson & Johnson and GlaxoSmithKline and has managed budgets of $50 million. Whoa. He talked about the midterms. There was a huge messaging gap to swing voters from the GOP. Democrats say North Carolina is 49th in education. But the fact of the matter is North Carolina is 9th in education funding, and that's according to the U.S. Department of Education, which is a non-partisan entity. Okay, still, and then you have Pricey Harrison, who won at like 72% of the vote, very huge victory. She had a picture of a classroom of a teacher and students, but she voted against a 7% teacher pay increase. Yet Alyssa Batts, who I believe did a good job as a candidate overall, did not have the same effective imagery on her website that Pricey Harrison did, and this district was very, very dark blue. I think that would have made a difference in a race. Hard to say, but still, and sometimes it's not even the candidates. I'm not going to blame Alyssa entirely on that. It might have been some consultants that were in her campaign, and it could be that they are passive consultants and they don't take the time to really dig at the facts, while the Democrats get away with hyperbole and fake news and all that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the Clemson White House feast. President Donald Trump claimed to put hamburgers a mile high, but the Washington Post said Trump is a liar, and they actually, what they did was they not only said that, but by the article they had this whole diagram of, they had McDonald's at the top, Burger King in the middle, Wendy's on the bottom of the table, and then a whole another table with Domino's Pizza. And they were so detailed, they even had where they had the napkins. Wild, huh? But that just proved that, it proves that how deep the liberal media will go try and disprove Republicans, and Republicans need to do the same thing to the liberal media, but they tend to be passive. Okay. Trudy Wade. This is another example of where, according to Mr. Jones, she really didn't have any of her ads that stated she supported education, and she only lost by 0.6%, or about 700 votes in this race. And it was actually she was my senator in the state legislature, and now I'm represented by a complete liberal buffoon, Michael Garrett. Ugh. But now, what Mr. Jones did not mention was she actually ran an ad that was about education. She had different teachers say we support Trudy Wade because she raised our teacher pay and all this stuff. But still, it would have been a bit better if, keep that ad, but also have an ad where Trudy Wade is speaking directly to the camera, be like, look, we've done all these good things for education. Michael Garrett is just full of crap, But Mr. Jones, he concluded this presentation by saying 2020 is going to be a goal line stand for the GOP, and they really need a message in czar. And he said that each county party in the state should have 4 to 5 people who consistently write letters to the editor. Now, it doesn't mean the newspaper's going to print them all, but still, if you get enough flowing into a newspaper, maybe they'll print one or two, and and you'll get your word out a little by little, right? Another example of getting into the media is to get email addresses to favorable news personalities. And then finally, he said that 55,000 should be the goal needed for funding for this sort of messaging for 2020. Okay. So let's hear from the audience on this one. We had Jim Duncan, who I was very pleased that Mr. Duncan made this meeting. He's from Chatham County. It's within 30 to 45 minutes of Raleigh, but still, Duncan ran for in the primary for the 2nd Congressional District. I believe it was back in 2014, something like that, and ran against Renee Elmers. But then he got redistricted, and Duncan had no longer lived in the district, so decided not to run again. But still, he used to be a county chair in Chatham County. Really has a good reputation of being very pro-grassroots, pro-Tea Party friendly, and just being a very conservative guy, which is a good thing. But Duncan said, great to talk about it, but what do we do? He says we've been talking about this over and over for years and years, and nothing's going to be done. And then he said the $55,000 figure is a low amount. Okay, then we had Jim Womack, who maybe not, could be, possibly, I don't know, could be running for against Robin Hayes again. I don't know anything officially. We'll see. It's February 10th. If we hear anything, it's probably not going to be for another 3 weeks or so. So sit tight. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Jim Womack of Lee County, current chairman there, said that we need a much better way to organize the NCGOP, and the General Assembly needs to hear Mr. Jones's message. Tim Moore and Phil Berger need to sit down with party leadership, and right now, these two gentlemen of the legislature, they think they're independent, according to Mr. Womack. Okay, now we have our keynote speaker of the day, who is North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Paul Newby. And he actually appealed to the audience that there be no media coverage of his speech because there's some things going on right now, the way court is restructuring, and there's issues with Governor Cooper. And so I was like, okay, even though I have low viewership numbers on my YouTube channel, I'm still considered media coverage, and I will respect Justice Paul Newby's wishes on that. Only thing I'll say is it was a great speech. And next time, maybe y'all will be there to hear what he has to say, right? Okay, next on the Saturday meeting, we heard from Michael LaPaglia, who's running again for Secretary of State. He lost 2016, but he got 48% of the vote, and he said that that's the closest that any Republican has ever gotten to the Secretary of State seat. Republicans last controlled the Secretary of State seat back right after the end of the Civil War. And he said he even got more votes than Richard Petty did when Petty ran for Secretary of State back in '96. If you don't know who Richard Petty is, and stop watching my channel. No life. No. Richard Petty is a former race car driver and now lives not too far away from where I am, probably about a half hour away down in the Randleman, Asheboro area. They're in Randolph County. Okay. So Michael LaPaglia, reason why he's running against Wayne Marshall is that Wayne Marshall apparently is using illegal aliens as notaries. So, yeah, that's bad. When you take illegal aliens and basically you're taking jobs away from U.S. citizens when you do this. And also that there is a unfair fee structure for business licenses. And Paglia's campaign strategy, which I think is very good, he's going to send postcards to businesses, and he's going to say the GOP will send you money on your licensing and renewal fees. And then he'll do this right before Wayne Marshall will send in postcards to have the renewal fees. Okay. And then the GOP will send another postcard saying you could have saved X amount of dollars on your licensing fees by electing Michael LaPaglia. Okay. So then we hear from the audience again. Jim Womack, the party has never done a good job supporting canceled state races. We need a drop point in the state and possibly 13 drop points in the state, one for each congressional district, to get the logistics and information of these candidates out across the state. I think it's a very good idea. LaPaglia said that this election cycle will come up in 2020. They're going to start a Council of State, a political action committee, where people can, give unlimited contributions, and it's going to be headed by current Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest, who is running for governor on the Republican side for 2020 as well. Okay. Ron Pierce. He's running for insurance commissioner. Now, I think, wait a minute, Bobby. Don't the Republicans already have insurance commissioner in the Council of State? Yes, they do. And his name is Mike Halsey. Okay. But Ron Pierce is running because he claims Mike Halsey hasn't done anything. Pierce is going to court countless times to tell the truth. And right now, Mike Halsey apparently is letting the insurance companies do whatever they want because they can. And State Farm and Nationwide were able to raise homeowners insurance across the state by 16%, without a fight from Insurance Commissioner Mike Halsey. And he also said that one of the really bad things about the insurance industry in North Carolina is that right now, under the law, a person's credit rating can determine insurance in North Carolina, and credit rating can determine a person's insurance rates in North Carolina. And Mr. Pierce wants to change that. I think that's a great thing, especially if you apply it to car insurance. I mean, homeowners insurance, not everybody owns a home, and not everybody has the credit to get a mortgage. But pretty much everybody needs to drive, especially in North Carolina, right? If you live in Charlotte, you can probably take a bus and light rail. Anywhere else in the state, you need a vehicle, and pretty much everybody has to drive here. And the problem is that a lot of people that drive, they don't have a very good credit rating, and yet a lot of the insurance companies think that because they have a lousy credit rating, that they automatically assume they're a lousy driver and they need to pay more for car insurance. But that's not always the case. And credit rating is completely separate from it should be completely separate from a person's driving record. So Okay. Jim Womack. We had a time for basically people from the audience can speak and say whatever they want, kind of open mic time, which I think is kind of cool. Jim Womack said that he wanted to highlight the importance of the permanent headquarters in Lee County. He said they do about 2 or 3 fundraisers a year in that county. The money is used first to keep the headquarters up and running year round. Another reason is to give money to the candidates, obviously. But his goals that he's working on is to form a veterans caucus in the NC GOP. And he also says that he wants to work on veteran reach out. And he says the Democrats are way ahead and very active, especially in Lee County with that, too. Okay, so now I'm going to get some criticisms here. The agenda was put out of the meeting beforehand. However, Bob Pruitt had said that he was going to kind of use it more as a picture frame and not really as a checklist. And the meeting was supposed to be over at noon, and then lunch was going to be served. Now, what had happened was the meeting was dismissed about 11:50. They're going to take a lunch break and then re-adjourn the meeting. Okay, now here's the problem with this. What they had for lunch was one of the most un-Southern things you can eat for lunch. And it was Jimmy John's, cold sandwiches from Jimmy John's. And if any of you out there know me really well and really personally, you should know that one of the least favorite foods, one of the things I just do not like eating at all, you could probably pay me $100 and I still wouldn't eat it one, is a cold sandwich. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I remember when I was like 3 or 4 years old and I was at babysitter's house. It might have been one of the first times that this babysitter had watched me, but lunch, they served me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It was like, the jelly and peanut butter was cold and the bread was white bread. And I was just like, I took a couple bites and was like, no. I didn't want to eat it at all, but I took a couple bites like, no. But fortunately, I fussed about it because, 3 or 4 years old, that's how you communicate when you don't want to do something. But the babysitter told my mom, and my mom was like, you make sure you serve him a hot lunch from now on. So, problem was that, NC Federation of Men decided to have lunch with something that I didn't like. Okay, very un-Southern. To put it in perspective, at the Young Republicans Convention back in August, we had Chick-fil-A for lunch. Very good, very Southern. Okay, and chicken is one of those foods you can eat. It doesn't have to be really hot. You can eat it kind of cold. It actually was kind of lukewarm when we were eating it back in August. But I mean, really, for our next meeting, please, Mr. Pruitt, please, no Jimmy John's, no sub sandwiches. Let's do Chick-fil-A. Let's do Bojangles. Let's do something, some barbecue place. Let's do good guy Southern food, okay? And please, don't dismiss the meeting until the end of the meeting. In other words, don't leave us hanging. And the thing is I waited around at the headquarters for about 10 minutes. Okay, everybody's going to get their food, then they're going to start eating again, but that didn't happen. So by this time, it was like 12:15, another meeting to go to at 1:30. I was like, okay. And, boy, I got to tell you, traffic was terrible for a Saturday. I needed to get some lunch, some food in my stomach, because there was a meeting. I didn't know how long it was going to last. And sometimes these party meetings, these executive committee meetings, could last for several hours. And what I did was I was able to go find some food at Taco Bell. There's a Chipotle right next door, but I'm like, I got to go to Taco Bell. It's a little cheaper, and I get a little more bang for my buck there, and the food tastes just as good. And plus, they don't charge you. Taco Bell, the sauce is free. Okay, Chipotle, the sauce costs extra. But boy, the traffic. Whew. Okay, there's two really big criticisms here. One is headquarters of the NCGOP. Okay, it's located right in downtown Raleigh, and I get there and I think that there's plenty of parking there because what I thought was happening is they have like 5 spaces on the side of the building, and they have a little parking lot that's down in the basement level, probably about maybe 15, 20 spaces. But then I thought that they had another little bit easier to access parking lot at ground level on the right side of the building, but that apparently belonged to an apartment complex. Fortunately, I saw a sign. I parked my car for a few minutes, and then I saw a sign that says parking only good for this apartment complex. So I was like, okay. So I take my car into the basement parking lot, and I was able to grab like the last parking spot. So, and then traffic. Oh my gosh, that Hillsborough Street. The campus, the headquarters is right across the street from NC State. And you think on a Saturday, yeah, it's during the semester when the semester is active, but still you think to yourself, okay, Saturday traffic around campus really shouldn't be this bad, but it was like, bumper to bumper, and and there's so much pedestrians getting around. These roundabouts are crazy, and I'm just like, I just wish that meetings would have been held out in Cary. There's like an Embassy Suites out in Cary. It's a very easy to get on I-40, easy to get off I-40. Plenty of parking. You don't have to worry about traffic congestion. And this building, the afternoon executive committee meeting now was just it was this huge maze, and the bathrooms were so small, and people were in the back of the room talking, and the voices carried way over. At the Embassy Suites in Cary, they closed the ballroom, and then want to go outside and have a conversation, they had plenty of room to do so. So, anyway, that concludes this video. If you have any questions or comments, I always welcome them. And I will say that for Conservative Pelican, I am Bobby Crawford. Thanks for watching.